Happy Friday and welcome to Data Center News Asia. This is the last, well, it's the first report of February or the last report of January, whichever way you want to slice it, but 𝐂𝐚𝐭𝐚 to those who celebrate. James, thank you for hosting me again in a different corner of your office.
Yeah, well, Dina has kept her space a bit messy, so we have to move over here.
Yeah, well, your team keeps growing and you haven't changed offices yet. Is there news on that when you...
Well, the news everyone wants to hear, we have signed a new office lease, and it's actually the office next door, slightly bigger space.
That's biggest real estate deal of the weekend.
Yeah, well, I won't get into the rent details, but it is an increase.
Well, we can launch into so a few news stories this week. I think the big data center news is BDx's new site in Hong Kong. We've got a few renewables stories. There's a sustainable new fund project in Korea. STT have signed a renewable deal in India. There's some solar panels being deployed in Japan. And then we've got a couple of senior appointments as well from BW and PDG. Do you want to kick us off with BDx?
Yeah, I think this is probably the big pure data center news. So they announced a 16 megawatt site in Hong Kong, and they will be partnering, or they'll be the development is by Sino Group with BDx as the tenant. This is BDx's fourth facility in Hong Kong. Expecting it to go live end of 2023. It's in the 𝐂𝐴𝐿 district of Hong Kong, which is yeah, not too bad, right? That's actually quite a bit of a data center hub now there. So we've got both Equinix HK1, HK2 there, Sunny Vision, their jumbo facility is there as well. And then if you go slightly further away, you've got Vantage, DRT, ESR, iTech, GDX, and actually one of the BDx facilities as well, just slightly further out, but all in the kind of the same area. So it's pretty, like 16 megawatts is relatively big development for Hong Kong, where there's obviously different land and power constraints, etc. So congrats to the BDx team on that.
Any news as to why this one's called HKG8? If there's only 4 or 5 there, or...
I don't like to speculate on naming conventions. Like, we did that a couple of weeks ago and got it quite wrong with, up in Japan. So let's not go there. But that's what it's called.
Excellent. Well, that's exciting development for them, and congrats to Sino Group, who posted online welcoming BDx as a tenant. So I guess that's a joint enterprise between those guys. The next story on the list is in Korea. So this is a new player in the market. Hanwa, major Korean conglomerate, have entered the fray with an MOU signed between them and SKS Credit, who are an ESG fund manager. So it's a joint development of data centers and some logistics properties, and they've committed, obviously, it being powered by renewables. The press release was talking at length about the RE100 and customer commitments. And yeah, they've launched with 250 billion Korean won, which is $202 million as the start of the fund. And I think they'll raise some more from there. So Korea maybe catching up with India at some point in terms of levels of activity and crowding.
Yeah, well, it's been kind of a grey area, the kind of the renewables situation up in South Korea to date. So maybe on the back of this might kind of be the start of a number of these kind of deals being signed, with more renewable energy kind of coming online to help facilitate the growth of the DCs up there, because everyone's asking for it, and it's kind of an unclear picture right now as to how and if you can actually go about getting renewables there.
Yeah, it's a regulatory question, and then there's a huge amount of wind capacity coming online. And in fact, just mentioned India, very much the same in India. There is a dearth of wind and solar projects coming online. And the next story was that STT GDC have signed a deal with O2 Power. So O2 Power has a huge 200 megawatt, which is big even for data centers, but renewables, that's a lot of land. And it's a wind solar hybrid project in, I'm about to butcher this. It's Karnataka. In the comments if I'm wrong, but it's in Karnataka. They've got this huge hybrid wind and solar plant. STT are not taking the whole of the capacity. The amount hasn't been shared, but this is for their 3 facilities in Bengaluru. And I think those total about 26 megawatts. Is that right?
I didn't actually check before this, but yeah, I think that's in around the right ballpark, yeah.
Oh, you're the guy with the data center data.
I know. So yeah, you shouldn't call me out like that. But yeah, I think that sounds correct.
So yeah, exciting news for both SDT and for Hanwa, and for O2 Power to get the deal done. I think STT are now claiming that they have about 37% of their India portfolio is powered by renewables, and they are committing to increase that. So yeah, in India seems to be a good pilot project for these deals. And the last one before I start waffling about renewables and sustainability. This one is perhaps not such a major success story. The Internet Initiative of Japan, IIJ, they're one of the Japanese internet service providers, and they have a couple of facilities. They opened a 700 rack data center in 2019. So I'm not sure exactly what that is in megawattage, but they put rooftop solar all over the plant, which has just gone live, and they've announced to some fanfare that it will be powering up to 3% of the data center.
Well, 3% is better than nothing, Rhys, so don't be so flippant with your remarks like that.
It is, yes, 3% is better. James, I think there was a couple of other stories you wanted to go through in terms of some senior appointments that have been made.
Yes, so PDG shared a press release yesterday, I believe, announcing their new managing director of Japan. So Yoshinaga Takahashi. In the actual press release, he's referred to as Yoshi. So that's probably for the benefit of people like you and me. 22-year veteran. Apparently, he's been at Mitsui for the majority of his career, but his experience obviously in Japan, but all across the region, Japan, China, and some of the other markets across the region. This is obviously to help with their Saitama project, which is that 100 megawatt campus announced 2-ish years ago between themselves and Lendlease, with PDG being the I think 80% share in that project. So that's obviously to help on the operations side of things. I'm sure there's going to be a sales element to the role as well. And very very timely from my point of view, because I'm going to Japan next month, first trip since the baby. That side is definitely on our radar to go and actually check out and visit. And yeah, hopefully I'll be able to meet with Yoshi while I'm there. So yeah,
already on nickname terms.
Yeah. Well, I'm just going with the press release, right? Yeah. So no, congratulations. I think great appointment for Yoshi, and looks like a great appointment for PDG, and should help them kind of with that flagship project up in Japan.
Yeah.
The next appointment we're going to go to is Ludovic Hutier.
Rather you say that than me, but yes.
Yeah, well, I'm learning French on Duolingo at the moment, so I think I got that right. So he is now the CEO at BW Digital.
Correct.
So BW Digital, they've got a couple of different assets and a couple of different announcements. So they've got the Hawaii subsea cable, which is...
It's Sydney. We'll have a picture here, roughly there. I'm going to put it on the screen. But it's Sydney, the North Island of New Zealand, and then up to Portland. So it's a big project. They and then the outgoing CEO, I think Remy Glasser, was the founder of that project.
And they're also behind the Data Grid DC announcement, which was again last year at some stage, which was a big project down the South Island, New Zealand.
Yeah, we talked about that. We were unsure because of the scale. It was 100 megawatts in the relatively sparsely populated part of New Zealand, but I think there were some ties to renewables, and again, it seems that BW have a lot of irons in the fire, so maybe some kind of platform play.
Yeah, well, definitely want to keep an eye on, as we always say. We have got news of another CEO appointment, which hasn't officially broken, so we will report that next week. So stay tuned for that. Big name. We briefly mentioned AWS in keeping with last week. So their cloud revenues was only done a couple of hours ago, so I didn't go through the report, I have to say, but high level cloud revenues 21.4 billion for the quarter, slightly down on what they were expecting, or what analysts were expecting, which was 21.8 billion. Still growth of 20%. So, and the AWS head was, they spent quite a lot of time, it seems, talking about the AWS unit, which I think is quite rare on these calls for Amazon. But I think they're still very buoyant on the future. There's obviously a bit of a slowdown right now, but
it'll be interesting to have a look at the comparable figures from Google and Microsoft, and that they both announced some drop behind the forecast in sales. But the statement I saw from Google was talking about ad revenue. So yeah, it'd be interesting once you get the breakdown of where the cloud sits in that whether we're in for a bumpy 2023 or an exciting roller coaster.
No, long term, it's all good. But yeah, who knows what's happening in the short term. Yeah, so I think that's everything for the week.
Oh, I'm speaking on Wednesday at the JLL event, which will be in their office in Capita Green. If you are interested in attending, I think you can reach out to Chris or Daniel or Ewan, and they can arrange access if you are keen to see more of my mug face.
Yeah, well, good stuff. Okay, well, I think that's everything for the week.
Yeah, I think we can wrap up with that. And sounds like the the noise has just started outside. So
yeah, well, actually, when you move to this corner, I'm like, yeah, maybe we should have stayed to our usual spots. Less noisy there, but that's what you get when you get this kind of.
It shows you expanded geographical coverage, though. We've got Hong Kong, Bangkok, and Melbourne, all on the DC by app, I believe, James.
Yes, of course, everything's on the app. Okay, good stuff. Well, sign off there and see everyone again next week.
Happy Friday.
See ya.